Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Get Well Soon podcast. I'm your host, Aidan Baker, and I'm sorry. Clearly, this is what happens when I stop consistently podcasting. The world goes to hell. So, I apologize. I own my part in this. But seriously, things have been rough the past couple of days. I mean, where do I even start? Obviously, the election was what the election was. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I know we've all done our grieving these past couple of days, and it's time to try and look forward. But man, has it been a week, particularly for me in my life, for a handful of reasons. Election aside, Grammy nominations came out on Friday, and oh, was I stupid to think that wouldn't be salt on the wound. The Recording Academy is probably the second most toxic relationship I have in my life. Only second behind Gamecock football. That's a whole other thing. But I get my hopes up every year with the Grammys. And this year, Ariana Grande has an album out that is eligible for Grammy consideration. No nominations in the big categories. Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Album of the Year, nothing. She did get nominated in the pop and dance categories, which, but come on. Nothing in the big three. Disappointing, to say the least. But as a dramatic Ariana Grande fan, gut-wrenching, I think is a better word. Cruel. We'll stick with cruel. So that was that. The second thing, my dog has somehow, in less than a month of being in this new apartment complex, scared off 3 neighbors. Mind you, he is a 20-pound Yorkie poo. Adorable looking thing. And he's got some enemies. Mind you, and these are people who are minding their business. Kind neighbors. Great people. But my dog is very territorial and is always in fight or flight mode. It beats the alternative, right? It's nice to have a dog who's protective. But there's no presence of mind to assess the threat before attacking. He just sees another human and is like, I think I'm going to jump him. He's gotten better, with friends and family and people that come around, and he gets a chance to really warm up to him. But if it's neutral territory on a walk or something, he's just ready to fight. And it's only with men. My dog is a girl's girl, a girl's dog. But for the men, he's ready to swing. And so I've had to deal with him this week, being a nuisance. That's not been fun. The third thing, tomorrow is Veterans Day. You'll probably be hearing this episode later than that, but from the point I was recording it, tomorrow's Veterans Day. And consequently, I don't have work. And I think anyone who works a job, even is in school, wherever you are in life, can empathize with what I'm about to say. The night before a day off is often better than the actual day off. So I've been expecting today and this evening, to be relaxing, just take it easy, which in the activities I've done, that's how it's been. But my body has been feeling Sunday scaries the entire day. And I feel like my day off tomorrow doesn't count. I'm like, what do you mean the lead up isn't going to feel like the lead up? I'm so annoyed. It's such a minor thing in the grand scheme of things, but salt on the wound, man. I'm over it. I'm over it. And the best way I've been able to kind of think about 2024 right now is like if this year were a tire, a Goodyear tire, a Pirelli tire, whatever you fancy. I feel like we just ran over a nail and we're losing air. The tire pressure light just came on. It's looking real grim. And it's just kind of a mood killer. And I can't tell if we're headed for another pothole or if we're en route to a tire shop. And I think in my life, trying to push to the AutoZone, you know what I'm saying? Push to a Firestone. Because I feel like the end of this year is going to be that. There's a lot to look forward to in 2025 for me. I'll be turning 25 in a month. I'm engaged now, so there's wedding planning ahead, and there's a lot just that I want to do and accomplish in the next year. And I feel like it's really time for me, I think, to turn the page and really lean into adulthood. And when I say that, I think my relationship with adulthood has been just like how any relationship is, right? You have a honeymoon phase, and then everything kind of settles in, and you have a mature relationship that you need to maintain and build. And I think that's where I am now. Turning 25, I can't hang on to the delusion of early 20s. I'm officially in my mid-20s. I'm halfway through the 20s. And with that comes a lot of kind of sobering and maturing and growing. And in this past year leading up to turning 25 and beyond, I think I've done a lot of that work through therapy, reflection, just general living. And I think the biggest component of all that, where I've seen the most growth and change, is with my friendships. And this is the topic I really want to cover today, is this idea of friends and things I wish I knew sooner about friendship. Because now, I really think I got it figured out. I'm still meeting people. I'm still a social person at heart, an extrovert. But I really think like my core group of friends has really like solidified itself. And they're the best people in the world. And I'm very, very grateful. But it took a lot to get here that I don't think is talked about enough, but I think is a common thing a lot of us go through. It takes a lot of work to build a stable friend group and find yourself and find your footing in friends. And so I'm going to take you through 10 lessons that I've learned in my life about friendship, and hopefully you all take something away from these little bits, because I know I wouldn't be who I am had I not learned these things. Unfortunately, some of them the hard way, but others through mentorship and third-party witnessing. But we'll get right into it. So the first lesson I learned is that if you value quantity over quality of friends, your quantity will be 0 every time. If you value quantity over quality of friendships, you'll be left with the lowest quantity possible. And this is something that I learned and struggled with a lot through middle school, high school, and college. I was always doing the right things. I was always involved in a lot of things extracurricularly. And so, I was always surrounded by people. And I always had this need to be super involved, but also be on good terms with everyone that I was with. Like in middle school and high school, I think what really fueled a lot of that was a desire to be popular. Now, not your like stereotypical, all-American version of popular. I just wanted to be liked and adored amongst everyone that I was around. I could not stand tension or conflict. And so I tried to be everybody's friend, if not everybody's best friend. And I really think I felt the kind of after effects of how surface level majority of those friendships I made were when I switched school systems from middle school to high school, and then switched, obviously, states from high school to college. There were only a handful that, out of the smoke, really stayed friends with me from both those transitions. But I was under this impression that I could hang out with anybody. All these people were my friends. I could talk to these people any day. In reality, it wasn't that at all. I was giving so much of myself spread so thin to so many people, I really couldn't dig into and look at my like core relationships until later in life. Because I was the same version of myself with every single person. So much so that I feel like everybody knew everything about me at that point. And then when I got to college, there was so much going on that FOMO really drove so much of my friendships for probably the first 3 years of college. I didn't have, my mom and dad around to come home to. I'm an only child, so I didn't have any siblings. So when I was really, really a fish out of water in college, I needed like constant companionship and friendship and people around me. And so I would spend every moment with someone, whether it was like going to get food, going to the library. I was always like on FaceTime with somebody. I could never have alone time and not think I was missing out on something. And so I think the biggest lesson I learned from that was like, I had to be okay with being just by myself and that being all right. I didn't have to have a friend or someone accompanying me to do everything all the time. And that was a very hard lesson to learn, particularly in college, because everything that can happen is happening. Every event you could think of, every party you could think of, it's all happening. And I think being okay with being by myself and being alone made me value the time that I spent with my true friends that much more, because I knew what really was absent when I was by myself. But then it made me appreciate that I had a space to go to alone. And so I think as I've gotten older, I love coming home and laying down on the couch and watching TV and not answering phone calls. Unless it's an emergency, or unless, sometimes I do want to chat. But when my phone is silent, I'm at peace. But if you had told Aidan in college or high school that, I would have freaked out, because I would have thought, oh, everyone hates me. I don't have any friends because my phone's dry. And so that perspective flip was important for me. And I've poured into these friendships that I have that really matter to me, and they mean more to me than the approval of the masses. So that's an important lesson. The second thing I learned is that an argument, 2 arguments, even 3 arguments won't derail a good friendship or relationship. Real relationships will grow through those ups and downs. And the rough moments, if anything, should bring you closer to your friends. Because there's something really, really, really valuable in being able to face conflict head on and have disagreements and learn from those. It's too many times I've had friendships in my life where the first point of tension, friendship's over. Even like relationships. The first issue in the relationship was done because it felt like the world was ending. And part of that was my fault, because I would give up and compromise so much of myself. I just wanted to be liked. So whatever it was, I'd say, hey, it's my fault, even if that wasn't true. Let's not fight. Let's not argue. It's my fault. I own it. Whatever. Throw these pity parties and try to just get everything to stop. And I've learned that this is not an efficient way to foster your friendships or your relationships, because then people just come and go and everything is surface level. But it's the friends that you can really like go at it with. Not that you need to all the time, but if something arises, you can have a little conflict, maybe have an argument, but not fall out and end up at a place where you're having conversation, you're learning about each other, you're being empathetic. And this is something, again, I had to learn later in life, I guess. I think part of it is the fact I didn't really have any siblings, so my friends were the closest thing I had to siblings. And I never argued with my parents or really any family. So if I ever got into conflict with people, it was just friends. So I did all of this kind of learning about conflict resolution and really how severe things are or aren't in the grand scheme of things through my friendships and relationships. And one of the biggest kind of maturing moments for me was having disagreements with folks and actually coming to a resolution based on conversation and not just ignoring each other. And so that was really important for me and is something that has shaped the way I carry myself in relationships. The third lesson is that real friends will let you say no and still love you afterwards. And this can mean a multitude of things. This can be related to peer pressure, related to just not wanting to go get coffee right now, supporting just times where you want to say no. I've had a lot of friends in my life who were very, very calculated manipulators that knew how badly I wanted to be included in things, how bad my FOMO was. And so when I would say no to social events, they wouldn't let me hear the end of it. Or they would talk me out of a no. Or they just really make me feel it for saying no. That's never a conducive place to be as a person, because that has a trickle-down effect to the rest of your life. If you feel like you can't say no or have your own stance in your friendships, that has an effect on how you are at work, how you are with family, how you are with, a partner. And so surrounding yourself with people that just understand, when you say no, it's okay. And give you the space to just say, I don't really want to do that right now. Or, no, I'm good. I have other things to do. And not, hold that against you. Seems like a minor thing, but it's a big deal. And it was a big deal for me. And something that I had to learn the hard way, but have learned it. And it's definitely changed me and helped me. The fourth thing, you don't have to talk to someone 24/7 for them to be your best friend. This is a big one for me that I've learned. I've had friendships, admittedly, that I've lost because of distance, because I've been, and the other person, have been busy people who just don't have more than 24 hours in their day, more than 7 days in their week. And so communication wasn't always frequent. Let's just say that. And I think it's important to not take that personally. It can be hard when you see someone that you care about occupied and busy, particularly with social media, seem like they're just out doing their own thing and feel like they have all this time that they're clearly spending doing everything else, but they can't text me, call me. And there's a fine balance of that, because with my, closest friends, no, we don't talk every day. Some of us, we don't talk every week, 2 weeks, but we still check in and we make time to see each other or talk to each other when possible. But I understand the need for the distance, right? Because we're busy people, we're most of us adults now. So there's other things that occupy our time. It's not personal if we aren't talking every day. It's life. But in the past, I've had friends where not talking for a couple weeks at a time just equated to one of us not caring, which was never the truth. It was just a miscommunication. And I think that's another thing that with age and experience I've come to understand is just a product of life. You rarely have time to talk to someone every day unless you live with them and they're right in front of you. So I wouldn't let how often you talk to someone, how often you FaceTime someone or text someone, define the level of friendship you have with them. Because it's really about the content of the conversations. It's about the moments within that friendship that really define that. It's not about how often. I could text someone every day in the same text just be, how are you? And we talk about the weather. And I may talk to them more than I talk to some of my best friends. But those conversations I have with my best friends, we're actually invested in hearing about each other's lives. So that kind of ties back into the first point, but it's a different lens of it, right? Quantity over quality is not the way to go. You just end up with surface level acquaintanceships, whatever that word may be. That's what you end up with. So it's just really all about knowing that your friends, your true friends, will be there when you need them and making time to check in on them. But don't feel the pressure to have these fruitful conversations every single day, because it's not realistic. It's just not realistic. Number 5, good friends will be okay with getting uncomfortable, safely uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is similar to the point I made earlier, right? Where like an argument or two shouldn't ruin a friendship. It should not. And anybody with a long time friend, longer than maybe 3-5 years, knows that there are some points where, things just get tense. Things get uncomfortable. Sometimes it's because of conflict. Sometimes it's because one of your friends is going through something. And, the dynamic of your friendship can feel like there's a shift because as humans, we're just not our usual selves. And I think the friends that I hold nearest and dearest when I've been at my worst have gotten down in the trenches with me at times when it may have been uncomfortable for them to listen to me, to have a conversation about boundaries, about support, because at the end of the day, they cared more about my well-being than anything else. And vice versa. I've had plenty of conversations with my friends where I've just felt like this is a lot for me. This is uncomfortable. But I know in that moment, 9 times out of 10, my friends just need someone to listen and just need someone that's willing to talk with them. Right? So if everything is peachy all the time, it's probably not genuine. It's probably surface level. So getting in the weeds with your friends is super important and isn't something you should shy away from. Whether it's getting in the weeds with your friends or having and inviting and asking for your friends to get to that level with you, to support you. Number 6, be a great listener, as it is a key to longevity in friendships. I cannot stress this enough. You should listen just as much, if not more, than you talk. That's life in general, but particularly in the context of friends. I've had several friendships either just run dry or go through a rough patch because I was yapping and never made space to ask or listen and hear out how my friends were feeling or ask what I could do to be a supportive friend to them. And it's always important to take that second to just step back and hear from your people. Because that's one of the biggest signs of care and love, is that you're willing to take the space to let them speak freely about how they're feeling and what they're going through. And I think friends that genuinely listen to you as well are keepers. That can't be understated. And it's easy to tell when your friends are truly listening and care and are internalizing and digesting what you're telling them. And I think that goes a long way with validating feelings and emotions and just being an all-around good support system. So that's a simple one, but just be a great listener. As a friend, always be open to listening, always. Number 7, real friends will meet your successes with celebration and not jealousy. This one I feel like I could do an entire episode on, but it's the perils of being perfectionist and super involved in extracurriculars and being a high achiever and setting high goals for yourself. Just by default, you end up in a circle at some point in your life, whether it's high school, college, maybe even earlier than in middle school, where you end up with a circle of folks who are very similar to yourself, that are high achieving and have high goals. And at times, your friend group kind of forms and morphs based off whatever you're involved in. And with that, you're surrounded by people with a like mindset. And you can get a mixed bag of characters in that kind of scenario. You can get folks who are competitive with you in an encouraging way. And you can get people with you who are just flat out jealous and envious, who don't think there's enough room at the table for multiple success stories. And when you leave academia, or even just high school, because college is a wide spectrum, it gets even trickier because that group that you were in kind of dissipates. And you can be the outlier amongst your friend group or a group of people who's just more ambitious, more involved. And you want to have people around you that are cheerleaders, regardless of where you all are in your paths. Because one jealous friend or jealous person deflates and derails everybody's good mood. And particularly for people my age and younger, adding social media to the absolute fire pit that is this topic, people can curate exactly how you want their life to look with, what they choose to post and don't post. It's just another outlet for some of the jealousy that can derail a lot of friendships. And so it's important to surround yourself with people who look past the curated, fabricated, appearance and really just celebrate your success for what it is, regardless of what it is. As we get older and really lean into adulthood, success looks different for everybody. It truly does. When you're in school, it's all pretty much the same. It's grades, sports, performance, extracurricular, class president. There's very, very clear milestone markers for what success can look like. But when you leave that world, it looks so different for everybody. It could be a raise at work. It could be buying a house. It could be starting your own business, raising a kid. It could be anything. And so, regardless of what it is, you have to look at it in a vacuum and really support your people and celebrate whatever their success is, because it probably means just as much to them, if not more, than whatever your next milestone is. So you have to put the jealousy and the comparison out of the window. And real friends will do that for you. They will. They really will. Number 8, be present when you're around your friends and be in the moment. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. Our time is so unfortunately limited and short on Earth and with our people, because it takes enough time to find your people. Then once you've found them, by then you've only got so much ahead of you. So it's important to really make the most of your moments and your opportunities with the people that care about you, and to be present and just to savor the moment, because that time is so limited with people. And so I think the more you can do to unplug and do something stimulating and fun and outside of your normal course of action with your friends, the better. Go on those trips, have the sleepovers, have the vacations, all of it. I think that's just can't be overstated. It's important to be present with your people while they're here, and while you can have the time. Number 9, it is possible and normal to outgrow your friends as you get older and change. This one I'm still working on, still learning, but it's true. Sometimes, just with any relationship, right? It's easy to put these in a romantic context where you're with somebody, but you're just not, it just doesn't work out. It's nobody's fault. but it just doesn't work out. And the same thing is true for some friendships. Sometimes you just get to a point in life where you have different goals, you have different priorities, the other person, and that's okay. It's okay. It just means you've outgrown that friendship and what it can mean to you and what it can give to you. And I think the maturing process is so fascinating because it's so different for everybody. We all age similarly, but age is just a number, and there's so many other nuances that go into growing and aging, and you have to be really cognizant of whether or not the people in your life are in that same sort of growth and maturity space that you are, because it can really kind of be deflating and almost an Achilles heel if they're not. And those friendships are often the hardest to assess because it feels like you're giving up sometimes, but it's okay. It's difficult, but it's okay. Because in the long run, you're either freeing up time or space to give more to relationships that exist and are supportive of where you are in life and not parasitic, or you're freeing up time and space to go meet people who are where you are in life and to invest time into them and into those relationships and building a community that is conducive to where you are and where you want to be. Outgrowing someone is okay. It's okay. And it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. But it's important to be okay with that. As difficult as it can be. And then the last thing, number 10, tell your friends that you love them and be unapologetic about doing so as often as you can. I think compassion in a friendship is so important. It's so important. I think particularly as a male, as a man, there's this like really kind of toxic bro culture around friendships with other men that is starting to wilt away, but is still very much there. And growing up, before I really understood masculinity, all my friendships with like girls were very like almost foreshadowy of what my friendships in general are now with everybody. It was just able to be more emotional and compassionate and really like appreciative and affirming, because it wasn't seen as weird to be that way with girls. But with guys, I mean, there's all kinds of assumptions and teachings that hold people back from being compassionate and just letting people know how much they care about their friends, you know? There's just like a really kind of rigid delivery of compassion between two guy friends. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I've understood how important it is to just unapologetically be compassionate with all of your friends. And that's just like who I am as a person too. I'm naturally like I'm a hugger. That's so like cliche and cringe to say, but that's just me. I will like hug my people. I hug my friends, my family. Love to give a hug. I love it. Because for me, it's important that the people that I care about know how important they are to me. And I tell all my friends, love you. Love you. I love you. All the time. Because again, that goes back to being present. Our time is so limited. And it's really important to give your people their flowers while they're here. And don't ever feel like it's too much. Don't ever apologize for being too compassionate, too empathetic, too caring. People that make you apologize for that, that's something going on with them that you shouldn't feel ashamed about. We all, I feel like, have a lot of love to give and kindness to give. So spend it and give it in multitudes to the people that you love and the people that are really like here for you. Because all that can do is boost morale and keep the good going around. I don't know how you could negatively affect a situation by being compassionate. So as early and as often as you can with your friends, do that. You won't regret it. I promise you won't. I promise. So those were 10 lessons in friendship from me, and I hope at least one of them resonated with you. I think it's also true that I may learn another 10 in the next 25, and it's always a constant, continuous improvement process. Learning about yourself, learning about who and what is really important in life, maturing. And I think the best thing you can do in life is always continue to learn. And people love to kind of use that in an academic sense, but even in just an emotional intelligence sense as well. The more introspective you can be about yourself, about who you're giving your time to, the better. And it just makes you a better friend, makes you a better person. And I think it also makes you more appreciative of the moments that you're spending with your people and with the people you care about, because you're that much more in tune to the cause and effect of what's happening and your actions. So, like I said, I hope you all learned a little something from today's episode, and I hope that you all carry compassion, care, empathy into your friendships unapologetically, and particularly lean into some of the discomfort as we go into 2025 and whatever the hell is beyond. It's important to lean on your people and know who your people are, because some of the best time well spent over the next few years will be with the people you really care about, doing the things you love and taking care of each other. So do the self-inventory work that is necessary and identify your people and tell them you love them as much as you can. So with that, thank you for listening to another episode. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. So take care, stay safe, and get well soon. Bye.